Look at these two dudes, Matt.
Will O'Connor, a lad. Okay, so we were talking about this yesterday, actually, quite extensively, just about ourselves and some of our athletes. So do you want to talk about what's going on here?
Well, for anyone who's interested in triathlon, Lionel Sanders, the beast, is just a phenom. And one thing that people are super amazed with are his heart rates, his heart rate outputs, because he's able to, run a sub 15 minute 5K. He's got a threshold of over 400 watts, and he does an Ironman at one point he had the world record. So just absolutely, human specimen of an athlete. But he'll do this, Matt. He'll do these outputs at these ridiculously low heart rates. His peak heart rate is 160. Then you look at some Bowser who, runs some ultra marathons and a couple of 10Ks, and he's operating an ultra marathon, a 10-hour ultra marathon, near Lionel's max heart rate. Like, how does that make any sense? And what I wanted to get into here is really, like I went through in the previous explanation of the cardiovascular system, is like the cardiac output.
One of the differences that we see is as someone gets fitter, what they're able to do for every beat of their heart, they're able to not only push out more blood, but also push out more of the blood that is inside of the heart. So it's a higher ejection fraction, it's called. And what we see is that they don't actually need to have their heart beat as many times per minute to be able to push out as much oxygen to the muscles. Plus, they have so much mitochondria that they're able to really efficiently use the oxygen that's getting to the muscles.
That's right. For endurance exercise, or putting exercise over 2 minutes, we've shown time and time again, that the dominant energy system, the metabolic pathway to generate the ATP currency is aerobic in nature. Aerobic, we know, requires oxygen, and so we need to supply that oxygen to the working muscles, to these cells, to the mitochondria. The way we do that is we've got red blood cells, we pump our blood. And the way we can supply it is we can either, pump small amounts of blood really, really quickly, like I do, right? My max heart rate is above 200 and I can operate at 160. I can run a marathon 2.5 hours at 189 or something like that. So it's pumping really fast, but it's not pumping as much as someone, like Lionel on the left-hand side, who doesn't need a super high heart rate because each heartbeat is pumping gallons of blood per beat. So in the end, we're supplying a similar amount of oxygen. I can't do his outputs, right? But at kind of the peak level, Matt, to ride at 400 watts, if you are a similar body mass, if him and I are both riding at 400 watts and we both weigh 75 kgs, the oxygen requirement, the metabolic requirement is similar. We're going to assume efficiency is pretty much the same. To generate 400 watts is going to be about the same. So we know the oxygen requirement is going to be about the same, the metabolic requirement. So the fact that my heart rate is so much higher and his is so much lower, it just means there's a different supply system happening there, the way the cardiac output is giving oxygen, supplying oxygen to the muscle is slightly different. And that's where something like 220 minus your age, are we still using that? I still hear it being mentioned.
Yeah, it's at the most basic level, you could make it look like a training zone's individualized, but it doesn't often work, right? Because my heart rate still gets super high when I'm racing. And we were talking about this with my easy rides, how my heart rate's super low on the easy rides. And then, yeah, so that was our whole discussion yesterday. But this is why something like blood doping works, right? We don't want to condone it, but this is what's happening, right? We're putting a greater volume of blood inside of our body, and then when the heart beats, it's able to beat more blood every time that it beats and deliver more oxygen.
And we take the blood out while we're at altitude with a higher red blood cell count, so that not only do we have more blood, but we have more blood with more oxygen carrying capacity.
Some more hemoglobin, yeah.
There we go. So, I'm not condoning it. I've never tried it, and I don't think they're really doing it anymore because the way to be caught is too great, but they definitely were, and it definitely worked.